So back to engine related matters. So this, as you'll remember if you've seen the previous videos, this is my Jaguar S-Type AJ30 engine, and I changed the sump on it because there was a large sticking out piece which got in the way of the chassis. But that leaves me with problems regarding the air conditioning, which I want, and also the alternator. Now, as you see, the air conditioning pump uses a boss on the sump for its mounting, but seemingly the X-Type system is different from the S-Type one, because that lug it won't allow me to bolt it up. It looks to me as if the pump is actually higher up, because the equivalent hole for the top mount there is actually here. So everything is slightly higher up. So that's one problem. Now, it could either be that the X-Type pump is smaller, or it could be that this bracket here, which is a separate bolt-on piece, is different. So I actually don't know which of those is the case. And a similar system applies with the alternator. So the alternator on the S-Type uses this mounting here and one on the sump, but in the X-Type sump there just isn't one. So I have a problem to solve here. So I can make bracketry, no problem at all. But it's worth noting that the distance between here and here is limited in the car by the chassis rails, which come very close each side. So it would be quite nice to be able to slim the whole thing down slightly. So the question is how to go about that. I've literally only just noticed when I was setting up this chute that this bracketry here was different. So that's one thing. So it seems to be higher. Now, does that make any difference? I'm not sure that it does. This bracket is certainly different, and it may just be to get the equivalent one from the X-Type, or it may be that the alternator, the air conditioning pump is smaller. I suspect it's the first one actually, because in fact looking here to here I can see a very small angle, so it looks like the whole thing is mounted upwards slightly. That may be helpful actually, and if that's the case, it'd be relatively easy to manufacture a new bracket to take the place of this thing. Just take it off and mount make something else to go in there instead. So I'll have to research the overall size of the air conditioning pump, but it would be great if I was able to push them together slightly. So that's the air conditioning pump that I was just talking about. On the other hand, the alternator is a separate problem. Now, again, I could probably make my own bracketry to pick up on the sump bolts here, for example, to mount this, but it would be great if I was able to push the whole thing in slightly. I can see there's quite a lot of clearance in here to get it more snug towards the engine and take up less width. So that's what I've got to think about. Now, I can't push this alternator in any further because this mounting here, that's a solid piece of alternator, and that's a solid piece of the engine casing, front cover casing. I could take a slice out of it, which would move it in a bit. That's one option. Another option is to get a smaller alternator. Now this one I believe is rated at 150 amps. Not sure, well, I'm sure that is enough for the engine, but there are well-known very small ones like the Daihatsu Nippon Denso a Kubota Digger, I think, type, which has only 40 amps, and I've seen them, they're really small. If I could get one to go in there, that would possibly release as much as, you know, almost a couple of inches. So again, that could be put on, and that could make a significant difference to the overall width and make it much easier to get the engine out and in, and also from the air conditioning pipes point of view, the important matter of the coolant connections, which when it had the old sump at least was very tight to the chassis rail just here. In fact, the chassis rail as I had it installed was running roughly at this height, so that this part was just slightly below. So that's what I've got to grapple with. So what I'm thinking right now actually is to make a new bracket for the alternator. This is higher up and would come further in if I made a new version of this, so it could then go flush for this mounting here, and there's another one behind, two of them, so I could tip that one in and that would make that go a lot closer. On the S-Type installation of the AJ30, the alternator goes over here, but I think that then we're dealing with a distance between here and here, that could actually be worse than how it is here, because the cylinder heads are so wide. I don't know, it may be possible. It's certainly worth considering. And then we've got to consider the overall positioning of the engine left and right in the engine bay. Clearly, if I mount the alternator on this side, that would tend to move the engine further over to this side, which is the same side as the driver in right-hand drive countries. So that might not be ideal. I'd like to have it central as far as I can do it. So there, that's the thing. But on my first, or I might say second look actually, the first look since I changed the sump on this matter, this bracket here definitely needs changing or modifying. And also, not only do I need to make a bracket for the alternator, it could actually be mounted further that way, maybe even up to 1 inch, which could have significant space savings. So that's my little problem space that I'm grappling with right now. Okay, so I've just moved the air conditioning compressor back onto the S-Type upper mounting, so it's now fully representative this way to that way of how it was when I last tried the whole thing in the chassis. So that's the width, and you can clearly see that the S-Type lower mounting for the compressor is higher up. And the other thing that's worth noting is that the problem area was actually where the pipes come out. So the chassis rail was about here, and the pipes would have to come out below, and that was in order to clear the chassis, and that was what the problem really was. So restricted space around the couplings there, and so if I can improve on that with a new setup, that would be a big improvement. And so measuring that distance between the extremities, looks like around about 55 centimetres from there to there. And if it's more than that, it's a problem. If it's less than that, it helps. But actually also, if the air conditioning pump connections don't come out this way, if they were to, for example, come out this way, that would also help a lot. So that's the problem. So I suppose, as well as sorting out a different alternator, this one's damaged, by the way, has a crack in it. A different pump here with differently exiting coolant pipes would also help. So I could change either or both but the thing is to get a distance from here to here of preferably quite a bit less than 55 centimetres. And just to confirm, I've just put the ruler in the chassis, and you can see the distance here between the chassis rails is indeed maybe 57 centimetres. So that is the problem area. So approximately from here to here, I forget exactly how far back and forward it was now. So yeah, that's why it's tight, because maximum really of well, not even 57 centimetres, because there needs to be clearance for engine movement. So yeah, I can see that the existing alternator size could be not a problem if I can get an air conditioning pump where the pipes come upwards instead of outwards. That would help a lot. And by the way, these pipes were below the chassis rail height, so the pipes, in order to fit, were coming up. The chassis rail was kind of here, and the pipes would have had to come out below that. So yeah, fairly crucial measurement. So what I could also do is take this off again, put it back in the S-type position, and redo that measurement. Right, yeah, so I can't properly get into the S-type position because I can't close this one up, because this one's getting in the way. But with that allowance, what I'm worried about is that because it's further uphill, as it were, it will actually finish up further out because of the V shape when I'll get the right bracket here. So okay, so this is nearly horizontal. So if I measure the distance here now and then take off a centimetre, that should be about right. So that is, yeah, it's looking like 59 now. No, 58. 58. Take 1 centimetre off because of that. 57. So that is actually 2 centimetres further out. So I'm wondering seriously whether I need to change the air conditioning compressor, especially to get these the coolant pipe connections, the ones that go upwards. That would make a big difference. It would mean all new brackets, but maybe that's not too much of a problem. Maybe if I get the same brand. Yeah, can't see any maker's name on it actually, but I'm sure it wouldn't take much to find out. If I can get the same brand anyway, there's a reasonable chance that the mounting brackets are the same distance apart. He said. Well, anyway, the chance of that.